I'm Tom. I'm here with Brandon and Carson. Hey, everyone. So
Everybody.
I know we're a little bit intimidated today after Brandon's performance last week on the show. So
Yes.
I'm hoping that we can, measure up today on
I,
some of these things.
I think that's why you guys made the topic AI, because you're both like so much neck deep in AI that you just wanted to make me look silly this week.
Not possible.
Yeah.
I do that all on my own.
Yeah, your brand and intelligence, which AI can't compete.
Oh,
The BL model cannot compete, or we can't compete.
oh man. Out
All
of
right.
control. We got a bunch of people logging in already. That Dave and Claire and Tara.
Good to see you. Thanks
Thanks
for
for coming.
So yeah, we have a pretty interesting show today. We're going to talk about, we've touched on this on a couple different shows in the past, but today we're going to talk about some tools and some strategies for using AI specifically in this world of social selling. Also, I want to welcome everybody who is listening on the podcast, and we'll do our best because we're actually do a couple screenshots even today. So Brandon, please make sure to keep us honest and make sure we talk about what we're talking about here. So,
Perfect.
All right. So who is our sponsor this week?
Hey, it's Modern Seller HQ. And it's perfect this week because we've got some really cool AI inside of Modern Seller HQ that I think, Tom, you're gonna demonstrate. So Modern Seller HQ, it's the free community, all things modern selling. It's social selling. We talk about AI. We talk about commenting strategies. We talk about social prospecting. We've got Rachel is in there as our LinkedIn profile expert, and Mariana is in there with social selling for women, and Butch is in there leading a space called For Baby Boomers. We got Carson's in there doing some stuff with the enterprise and healthcare. It's a great place to go be, and it's free.
Yeah,
come on over.
And AI enabled now. So
AI enabled.
All right.
Speaking of AI, I got a fight with an AI coming up, don't I?
Well, your ringer, I see your ringer Butch in the crowd. So
Did
fight.
Did Butch vote for me already? Butch, we haven't even had the joke yet. Don't vote for me yet.
You got Butch and Kevin and Brandon. I bet you all of them will vote for you. So, all right, who wants to go first today?
I'll go.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll let AI go first since this show's about AI. So I asked ChatGPT to arm me with a dad joke for this show today. I used to have a job at a calendar factory, but I got fired because I took a couple days off.
Oh,
that's not so bad.
That one's going to be about as bad as mine. All right. NASA is launching a mission to say sorry to all the aliens. They call it Apollo G.
Is that
and then I added this, and they're going to be using remorse code to communicate.
Okay. I think that you got like 3/4 of a point with one and maybe 3/4 of a point with the other, which pushes you to the lead. I'll give you that one.
All right. Well, let's hear. I don't. The comments are silent, so I think everybody's just still laughing. Is the only thing I think of.
Yeah. Out already. We've lost them.
They're so awestruck at how moronic we are that they don't even know what to comment.
All right. Well, we'll see what comes through. It's hard. We've already got
Blair. Sorry, man.
Yeah. Tara, thank you. Remorse code saved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin's trying to beat us with a joke, and his is probably better. So.
He asked my elderly later if I could take your.
Tara, you're right.
That was terrible.
Dive into the meat.
All right. Let's get on to AI.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about good stuff.
All over the place.
Dave gave it to you.
Thanks for the pity vote, Dave.
All right.
Let's talk about the fun stuff.
So let's start with one of you mentioned, Brandon, we have AI now in the Modern Seller HQ community. I wanted to bring that up and show it because not so much, I really believe that this is a really good example of what you're going to see in other places, whether it's LinkedIn, or I know you're working on something like this with fist bumps, Brandon, or whatever. But let me just quickly bring this up and we'll try and explain. I hope everybody sees the screen here. But this is Modern Seller HQ. And what you would then see here, hold on, my mouse is not behaving very well. If I go and I take this beautiful post I wrote here, this is only a post, this is a post and only a post. You see now that there's this little button here that says make it better. And what I like about this is it's not writing the post for you, but it's allowing you to put something down and say, how can you help me make this better? Whether that's with spelling or grammar or elaborate or simplify. I don't know if I can make it any more simple, but I can change the tone. So I can say, well, make this more fun. And then it will go through and try and change the tone of making it more fun for you. And then if you don't like it, you can just click this little undo button and go right back to where you were before. So I think that, this is something that we're using now in the community. This will work for a post, a comment, anything like that. But you also, I believe this is what we're going to see more and more of. And Carson, you might have some insights on this, on some of the, Microsoft stuff as well. But I believe we're going to see this type of capability more and more in everything that we're doing and using when we're doing this stuff.
And here I was pretty content with using Microsoft Word and having it underline when a word was spelled wrong. I mean, look where we've come.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, but I like that it's not writing it for you.
Yeah,
but it's you put something down and then let it go do its things to enhance it or work through it as it goes forward.
Yeah, and I saw Blair's comment just came up, and I think what he said is most AI-enabled comments and posts are too generic to be helpful. I had one a few days ago, and it was somebody I'd recently met and connected with. We had already chatted back and forth a few times in direct message. And then I get, I go look at my notifications. I'm looking at all the comments on my post, and I read his comment, and it just screamed AI, especially because we had a couple of chats the last few days. So I messaged him and I said, hey, was your comment AI driven? To be honest, it was more of a, backhanded question there, if you will. And he's like, oh yeah, I was just trying a few things and all that. But I think right now, what I like about the AI that we have in the community is it won't write it for you, but it'll make what you've written better. The stuff that's getting written for you at this point, it still lacks humanity. It's just lacking a little bit. And just like we have our human spam filters on connection requests, I think we're going to all develop pretty quickly a AI spam filter when we see something and go, I was written by AI, move on.
Yeah. What's insincere, right? It comes across as insincere.
Well, that's the thing. And would love it if people would put into the chat today, how do you have any questions about AI and how it can be used, how you're using it today? Tom does a phenomenal job before each episode of kind of sending us some talking points. And there was some key areas that we want to make sure we dive into. And I don't usually call out the agenda specifically, but it's really helpful today because there are some key areas that Tom put in our synopsis for the show notes. And it was research, LinkedIn profile analysis, LinkedIn profile content, commenting, content, and messaging. And these are key areas where AI is being infused. Now, Blair, you had an operative word in your comment there, which was spot on, and it's most. Because there is some AI, I would say, guided commentary and posts that can be helpful, but we have to be the final proofreader of that. And it's just like Brandon was saying, if I'm scrolling through my feed, you can really tell what's written by generative AI right now. Especially you see a lot of the little emoji pictures. If you see if the posts that you see are overwrought with those, chances are it was probably written by AI, or it's, attention LinkedIn family. There's a lot of these posts that, read out like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm leveraging ChatGPT to take transcripts of meetings, of videos that I've done in order to create blogs and posts, but I'm the final proofreader of that. and I make sure that I change a lot of the wording, or I make sure that it sounds like my voice before I would ever hit post. And it's not every time either. You've got to be really careful because, I've seen that too, Brandon, where more and more some of the comments that are showing up, even on our own posts by other people, they don't make any sense if you read them. And, obviously they're written by artificial intelligence. So we got to make sure that we add the intelligence to the final product.
So Carson, what are the tools that we want to talk about some specific tools. What are some of the tools that you're using day in and day out to help facilitate, not just for you, but your team on Social Selling?
Yeah. First and foremost, I'm using a lot in the way of just ChatGPT, using it to, make a synopsis of meeting notes, to help me send emails back to different prospects based on, the agenda, based on things that I've excised from their LinkedIn profile. But what it's actually doing is finding things that I may not have seen. Maybe we shared an experience in the past, or maybe we, maybe there was some keyword specifically in their profile that the AI caught that I didn't in my first scan. Those are super, super helpful. Using ChatGPT for some of my posts, and I'll use this as an example. So like when we do these shows, I can take the entire transcript from a podcast or a webinar, and I can funnel that into ChatGPT and get a sentence, a paragraph, a Twitter post, a LinkedIn post out of that I can massage into the final product. Something that might have taken me 20 minutes to write before, I can do in mere seconds with ChatGPT, and then I can add my own flavor and voice to it, and it's just a couple of minutes. So it's really a productivity piece. Something else that I found really helpful is I've gotten, sometimes we'll get really long emails. We'll get long emails from people that we work with, from customers. To be able to take that long email, funnel it into ChatGPT and ask me for, prompt it to give me 3 bullet points of immediate next steps that I need to take, saves me time and energy and keeps me focused. I see it as really a big productivity piece. One of the other things that I'm using a lot is Humantic AI. I'm a strategic advisor for Humantic. And I've spoken about them on this show before. What it does, it's a plugin specifically for LinkedIn, and it will comb the profile of the people that you are connected with on LinkedIn, or that you look at their profile on LinkedIn. It will also work on Twitter, and it will give you a synopsis of that person's profile. It will tell you exactly, all the way down to the detail of how to send them a message, what their disc profile is based on their content that they share. And it will tell you if there's not enough content to share, but I would say 99% of the time, there's enough content that person has shared where it will tell me their style, their disc profile, how that personality profile meshes with mine or doesn't, and exactly how I should write an email to them based on salutation, based on the selling style and their buying style, but also how much detail. And then the last thing I would point out is, and I don't want to make this a Microsoft love fest, because yes, I do work for Microsoft. They employ me, they pay me. But how we are baking generative AI into some of our solutions from Office 365 and things like PowerPoint. I can make a professional PowerPoint. I timed myself the other day. I had a team meeting. I was under the gun, hadn't had time to prep for the team meeting. And what might have taken me an hour to make a very professional looking PowerPoint, I did in 8 minutes going into a team meeting. Looked fantastic. I had recognition, I had agenda, I had graphics, I had GIFs, I had all kinds of interactive components to it. But the way that we're baking generative AI into all the solutions, now we have Viva Sales, which will plug into just about any CRM and give you actionable insights, how it can plug in and look at a meeting in Outlook and show me the LinkedIn profiles and then the insights that jump out for anybody that's going to be in a meeting with me. These things save us valuable time on research and arm us with more intel as we go into these meetings. They just make us better.
Go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
Well, I had a question on that, actually, Carson, and anyone else, if they have questions, pop them in the comments. So I'm a guest on a podcast or a live show next week, an event, and the topic is social selling in different cultures. And I'm curious whether it's Humantics AI or some of the stuff, the generative AI you're building into Microsoft, is it taking in like cultural differences, or is it just looking at like disk profiles?
No, that's a great call out. So I can't speak as much to Humantic as far as any cultural differences. What it will do is it will read profile. It will work in multiple different languages, and all of the generative AI that's being baked. It's GPT-4 that is being baked into a lot of the Microsoft products and solutions. It's learning, and frankly, it's all about the prompts. You can continue to teach it. It knows countless languages. I was in a briefing a few weeks back and was able to really see, and we had people in the audience that that were of different cultures, spoke different languages, and we were prompting it to rewrite or to construct emails in those languages, and it didn't miss a beat. They read perfectly. So while these models continue to learn and we continue to have the ability to teach them, they are inherently getting better.
Yeah. That's good.
And you had mentioned something, I think, right in the early part. You said, and I don't remember what tool you were talking about, but looking at a LinkedIn profile, and maybe you said you might miss something or there was an experience. Are you using ChatGPT for that, or what are you doing to kind of get that summary?
Actually, ironically, sometimes I will take the Humantic summary and I will feed it into ChatGPT, and I will ask it specifically to write an email to this person from me, and I will feed both of our profile and into information into it. And so what's interesting, Tom, is it may catch a similar experience. Maybe we had a past employer that, sometimes if you don't scroll beyond a certain number of employers on the profile, you may not catch something. It may catch a mutual page we follow. It's really interesting in that we'll find some of those synergies, and a lot of times those synergies are the things where we can more easily have as icebreakers. So that's what I find fascinating about this, is how AI can find some of these patterns and maybe raise something to you that you might not have noticed otherwise.
Well, and that falls into the research bucket that you were mentioning earlier, right? You're researching from, how do I get to know this person as much as I can before I get to talk to this person or interact with this person. So,
well, and it's all about the prompts. I mean, you can literally ask as much as, tell me about the last earnings report of this company. Talk to me about, in my case, Microsoft use cases that would be valuable for this company. These things happen in seconds flat. They're not going to be right on the mark every time, but if it gives me one more talking point where I can show up with unique perspective and value, my probability of getting that meeting or of landing that meeting or of successfully navigating that meeting go up. And that's what matters for a seller.
Yep. Knowledge is king. So, Brandon, what are some tools that you're using that you like?
Yeah, what I wanted to talk about is a couple of things, and then even ask the community for feedback and help on it too. So there's two pieces of AI that we're introducing, and Daniel's on a cruise ship, or else I may have asked him to come on and join us today. And Daniel and his team are coding it. And I noticed Blair in here said, when AI can use my content and voice as the basis for future content, then we'll have something helpful. And Blair, if you want to chat about that, I mean, what we're working on is our commenting style. So over the last several years, what we've been working on and identifying is people's natural commenting style. It came out of the communication style research, but we started applying it to commenting style. And initially, we were doing it to try and give people confidence. I mean, I looked at it like a DISC profile or a Myers-Briggs profile. As much as we don't like to be put in a box, I think a lot of times putting us in a box gives us confidence to act a certain way. And we know the value of commenting. We've seen it routinely. We built Fist Bump to help people be more efficient with commenting. But as we're looking at these commenting styles, it was to give people encouragement and confidence and motivation. So as we're looking at those commenting styles, now we're looking at how do we use AI to do two things. Number one is, how do we use AI to create a very powerful assessment tool so that people have confidence that, hey, here's your primary, your secondary, and your tertiary style. because we're not just one style, but so we're working on that AI assessment tool. But then the second thing would then be is incorporating that into Fist Bump to give you, again, suggestions for comments on posts based on your primary, secondary, and tertiary style. So I think that's really important for me, because I like to build tools that help make humans more efficient without losing humanity. And that's what we're trying to do there.
It's interesting. Tara posted something back here. She said, I was following somebody for months or years, and they posted what looked like a completely AI generated post. So generic, it didn't have her voice at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the last part here, she says, I'm so disappointed that she took this shortcut.
Yeah.
And I think that the risk that we have here, what we've been talking about, right, is the doing something like that and taking 3 steps back after we've taken 5 steps forward, or maybe 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, because we inherently are just raising our hands saying we're insincere and we don't care as it relates to this. So I think there's a real risk of trying to get to losing all of the humanity, and as she was saying, the style, right? It was clearly not the style of the person that had written that post.
Couldn't agree more. What I think is important to point out. So what I found super impactful using AI in these types of cases, like for writing a post or for writing a blog, is to be able to almost repurpose old content. There are videos that I did years ago, and to talk about how long it would have taken to just extrapolate a transcript and type it and write it and prep it, those types of things would have been a pain. But the fact that I can now copy paste a transcript completely jarbled into ChatGPT and ask it to clean it up for me, prompt it to do so, and now I can turn that into a blog where it is absolutely 100% in my voice because it was my voice. Right. That's the power of these things. Right. And again, this is a very fine line, because we've talked about this on the show before. What is going to inevitably happen is that our radars are going to have to be up. Like Brandon said, you're going to be scrolling through your LinkedIn, and there's going to be a lot of AI written material trying to get likes and comments and feedback, etc., which isn't genuine and is going to disappoint loyal followers.
Like
You're also going to have sellers that are going to be constructing emails that are potentially perfectly crafted for their target audience, because they are reading directly from ChatGPT infused LinkedIn content. And that's why we've got to be extremely careful. But at the same token, that is all the more reason why those who are going to be using it right to get the meeting, I would reckon that those who are using shortcuts aren't going to be able to use the fundamentals of relationship building and selling when they get to the big dance. And that's what's going to separate the greats from the not so greats.
Who's this Kevin guy? Things that are there. So this is Kevin, my lifelong friend and business partner in another company, but he brings up a good point, right? Isn't that the balancing point, is that you balance between helper and doer? And I think that's the key. That is, are we helping or facilitating, or are we trying to replace what it is that we're doing?
And it's going to come down to the person, right? We've over the last 10 years or so, we've looked at tools, and we joke around, or we talk about that, they want the easy button, right? There's people that just want the easy button. And there's other people out there that want to use technology to make their life more efficient. And I think the end product is going to be a huge difference. I think Tara pointed it out with her comment. And Tom, you rightfully highlighted that. She said at the end, I was so disappointed that she took this shortcut. Tara's perception of whoever that person was has changed.
Yeah.
The reputation has changed.
A healthy connection could be reversed into a disappointing connection.
Yeah. And I had a really great conversation with someone today, and I'm gonna say his age just for a point. He's 37 years old. I'm 53. We're talking about different AI and commenting styles and all this stuff. And he brought up, because The bottom line, though, is in B2B sales is that behind this B is a P, a person, and behind this B is another P, another person. And this is really just people to people sales, even though we call it B2B. And I was kind of blown away that somebody of, and maybe not his age, but knowing the industry was in and a few things, but he brought it right back to what's important. It's always going to be person to person. People still choose to do business with people they like. And now we have these AI tools that can screw that up even faster if we're not careful.
Yeah, the danger is this, because we're basically trying to scale ourselves and to take shortcuts to some degree to be more productive. And by doing that, I mean, you're in essence kind of like cloning your content. It reminds me of that Michael Keaton film, Multiplicity, where he's created all of these little other renderings of himself, but the majority of them are, wacko, and they're not being productive. They're not living out his true embodiment. And that's what we got to be really careful about.
I sensed that Adam Sandler's Click was going to be coming, but you went the Multiplicity route. Kudos. It's good.
Yeah, that's another thing we like to do on this show. If you're just tuning in, we make movie references, sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle. So.
Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But that was a good one. That was a good one. And Brandon's last week was Apollo 13 was outstanding. So
yes.
That's what triggered Apollo G this week.
So yeah, Blair.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. 30 Carsons out in the wild. My gosh.
Oh. Well, I want to talk about a tool I'm using in testing, a little bit different. We talk a lot about facilitating the buyer journey, right? We talk a lot about the show, the buyer's in control. We want to facilitate the buyer journey, not necessarily control it, because we can't. So what I've been testing is a tool, and if you want to check it out, it's called chatbase.co, chatbase.co. And basically it allows you to build private models with your own data. So you can load in your own website, you can take PDF files that you have, you can take video transcripts, and it creates a private model that you can build a chatbot off of that isn't going to go get the generic OpenAI ChatGPT data. So it's totally siloed and totally structured into your world. And you can train it too. So you can train it and have it, because sometimes it'll come back with some weird responses even from your own data, but you can train it and say, no, do it this way or whatever. And that by itself, I'm finding to be really, really interesting to be able to do. But where I'm seeing the value of this is how to, right? We want to facilitate the buyer journey. Most of us have a lot of content. We have content on our website, we have videos, but the key to facilitating the buyer journey is presenting it in the right sequence based on where they are in that buyer journey. Giving somebody a testimonial as the very first piece of content probably isn't the best idea if they don't know what your product or service is. But if they're multiple steps down the road, it may make sense to provide them a testimonial. So what I'm testing with this tool is, how do we set up a framework that can take that person through the conversation, through the buyer journey in the right sequence, and that they keep interacting and keep moving through that conversation, much like we would do if we had somebody on the phone and we were taking them through what we do. Does that make sense, Brandon and Carson? What I described makes sense? The site is called chatbase.co. And there's definitely some kludginess in it right now, but what I see getting better about it over time is being able to take then the conversation, right? You can then monitor the conversation. You can put that into the CRM. I was, Kevin, who's on here, is my business partner at LeadSmart. I was talking to him today, is that I want to be able to set this up so that we can facilitate all the questions, all the demos that people want to see, everything through, and then be able to track that and be able to allow them to do that on their own time and their own sequence. Because again, people are trying to but facilitate that buyer journey.
Yeah, and what's great here is that the general theme of all the things that we've talked about is that none of them are here to replace sellers, replace core fundamentals, or a lot of the tools that we use. They complement and augment what we do when used properly. The helper, like Kevin was saying earlier. And I think that's key to point out because, AI isn't new. AI algorithms have been leveraged in LinkedIn for a long, long time. AI has been leveraged in CRMs, surfacing buyer intent for a long, long time. But what we're seeing right now is a surgence and a high interest because some of these tools can do new things that we've never had access to before. And that's why all the more reason why we have to use them responsibly.
Yeah, and I think if you take what you were just saying, Carson, right, what is the world that we've lived in? If you think about it with Google and search, so we've done in a world where we search for something and we're presented with options, and then our job is to sort through those options, figure out what's relevant, what do I care about in the right sequence, maybe do some more searching for some more options. That's the world that we do research or anything that we're in. What we're switching from is a world of search and options to a world of conversation, which is much more logical for most humans, is to have a conversation about something and to be able to think about, well, wait a minute, I want to know this or that, and not have to then go to Google and figure out how am I going to search for that, and then lose context. Because that's the other thing, is when you're searching all the time, you're constantly losing the context of what you're doing, and to be able to keep that context back together. So I think all of that is what is new. But when you start to, like in this, the example of what I was just talking about, when I can take now a sequence of content that somebody should go through in a certain way, and I can make that conversational. And by the way, if they want to ask another thing or go off a little bit because they have something that comes in their mind, but still maintain context, that's what we do as humans. And if we can do that or help facilitate that, again, not replace or help, that's a big step in that direction.
Yeah. And what I was thinking about, and then Blair just added this in the comments about instead of content writers, soon there will be GPT analysts instead of content writers. And this is a little bit off our topic, but I think it's something that we should be thinking about, especially people in the sales space, at least. We need to get better with Chat GPT and using chat to help us with our own content, our own research, our own social posts, our own commenting, because I believe that a lot of the marketing roles are going to start getting gone. Right? A lot of these chat tools are going to be able to do things. We've got people hired that are blog writers, that are creating social post content and things like that. And we've got these really good tools now that can actually make salespeople more efficient in doing it themselves and have their own voice to it. And so what brought that up is, one of my daughters is starting her junior year of college next year. She's already shifted from a marketing degree to a management degree. We've talked about learning how to work with people and communicate and lead, all that. And I told her, I said, man, that was such an important shift. I'm glad you already did that, because I can see the marketing industry just shrinking a lot after the last, call it 15 years of inbound and all the, white papers and all of that. I think that industry is going to shrink really, really quickly.
Yeah. Well, if it's going to morph, right? It's morphing into something different. It is, yeah. Whether it's a GPT analyst or knowing how to prompt, how to monitor all of those things. I mean, that's
yeah. I think
they're going to be very different.
Yeah, learning how to build prompts and make the prompts more accurate and refine those prompts. I mean, I'm learning how to do that for myself right now, but I think that is going to become a role inside of companies to be the person that helps and become the expert at that. I think that's going to be really important.
Yeah, I found a prompt today that I didn't know about. Is what I have found sometimes is that Chat GPT, as you're going through, or OpenAI, as you're going through a conversation, will break character. Like you'll be having a certain tone, and then all of a sudden it will become a smartass, and it will start to throw in some sort of smartass remark or something like that out of the blue. It's really kind of like Carson does.
Touche.
Yeah. But anyway,
Can you imagine 30 of those guys running around?
Oh, I know.
I can get a lot more done.
But if you put in the prompt, never break character, that's all you have to say in the prompt. It'll always make sure it keeps that same character all the way along throughout the whole thing, which was a interesting side note today. All right, any other tools that we would like to share?
Prompt.
Pardon?
That's a cool prompt. I mean, it's a subtle thing, right? I mean, I think that's really valuable for me and anyone else listening. I never even thought about that prompt, but I have noticed that it just seems to, like, as I'm refining, it seems to like almost go in the different direction than what I was trying to refine.
Yeah.
Never even thought about that type of prompt.
I've seen people selling prompts, which, what a business that could be, right? I mean, you think about, again, I always like to go back to, the overall talk track, and we look at some of these things. I mean, think about the prompts that you can ask ChatGPT based on maybe a paragraph or a bio that you write about yourself to help you write a LinkedIn headline, or even to give you ideas about what you can make a post about. I do a show every couple of weeks with a friend of mine, and sometimes we'll go to ChatGPT and say, give me 20 topics that I could do a show about today that are sales related, that would resonate with account executives. Bam. Then we pick one. It's amazing the implications, the things that it can do to help you with ideas, whether it's creating content, whether it's making your brand stand out in a more elaborate way. And then the other element is, by the time you've gone out and created that content, what's cool is this week, and I'm tinkering with things all the time. I asked ChatGPT, I took an article that I wrote 3 years ago, and I fed it into ChatGPT, and I said, turn this into 280 character tweets with hashtags. Done. Now, did I post all 20 of them? No. But I picked about 3 or 4 of them that I really liked, and I posted them out on Twitter. And it would have taken me a while to think of tweets to post. But these were ones that were in my voice. I wrote them, but they turned it into tweets with hashtags and posted them and started some conversations. And I think that's the key. If we're using this to do what we always talk about on this show, which is create conversation, maybe post something provocative or to give us ideas and to complement and augment what we're doing, then it is still all done with the intent to connect meaningfully. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned something in the beginning, Carson. I believe there is a marketplace out there now I think it's called Prompt Base. Don't hold me to it, where you can go buy prompts.
Interesting.
So it's a full, and you can put yours up there and have a marketplace and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, because the prompts can be quite elaborate, right? That's what I think. It's almost like writing, it's like writing software, writing code, but you're writing prompts to facilitate how you want that engine to actually operate.
That's exactly it. Mariana had a really good comment there as well. She is a marketer. And, I love that there's that acknowledgement. I think that's the key, is we all have to acknowledge our roles are going to change. I always liken it to being a doctor. And if you don't learn new life-saving ways of doing surgeries, guess what? Your methods are going to become obsolete, and somebody else who adopts the new way will surpass you and be the ones getting all the surgeries, right? You'll be phased out. And I think that's the key. It's incumbent upon all of us to seize these new ways of being more effective, more efficient. The greats are going to find those ways to do that and to gravitate toward the new ways that make them more effective. And I love that Mariana calls that out and says it's a helper, not a threat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
Well, I like what she said there too. I mean, it's always good to see. I mean, I've shared the story a few times. I think it was in 2016 that I spoke at the Sales 2.0 conference, and I was talking about we've got to blow up the silos, that marketers need to move over and be more relational like sales, and sales needs to move over and be more content driven. And 2017, I got laughed at. I had people that were just adamantly disagreeing with me. So when I see a marketer saying we need to get back into human connection, digital in the last decade has taken a lot of that human connection. It was, throw a white paper up, put a gate, make people put in their name and email, force them to download it, and then we're going to email them 5 times a day for the next 40 days to get our MQL score, and then hand them over to sales and go, hey, we did the work. You go close them now. Like that model has died. I mean, it's dead. And now marketers and salespeople need to start moving closer into the middle if they want to stay being valuable and effective.
And think about how much more you can do. See, here's the thing, and like I'm still on this streak with what Mariana said, because it's got me fired up. And we were talking earlier about just the capability to write a newsletter with AI, or think about how much more productive we can be. How long did it take to write copy for an event and to broadcast that out to people before? It might have taken me 30 minutes, an hour, or multiple hours to make a customer-facing newsletter. But now I can scan content and scan the links that are ultimately going to be embedded into that newsletter. And in seconds flat, I can have copy that I can put into a post, into the newsletter. It's such a time saver. With that extra time, what are you going to do? Well, guess what? We need to find more places to land that message, or we need to find new messages that we can also land in different platforms and mediums. If we do it the right way, it just makes us all the more effective. We can do more in less time. And that gives us the capability to be in more places at once.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, is kind of the summary of if we look at the different comments today and even what we've talked about, the need to do, whether you call it social selling, modern selling, all the things that we talk about become even more important when you incorporate it with all this AI capability, right?
Yeah.
I guess it gets amplified. Its importance gets amplified for the reasons that I think it was Tara who said earlier, why she was so disappointed when there was nothing behind it. There was nothing personal behind it.
Yeah, and what Carson was saying around that point in our conversation today too is that we're going to have really well-written emails written by AI and come to us. And what I think is going to happen though, and because we've seen this with the cold connection request, is in like 2015, 2016, those connection requests with the automated drip messaging to, like that worked really, really well then. But over time, it got used and used and used, and people got savvy, and now it's losing its efficacy. And what's going to happen is those really well-written emails aren't going to have value anymore because we're going to get so many of them. And that's where I think sorry, Carson, real quick. Tom, what you're saying is these modern selling, using digital to connect human to human, to be a networker instead of a seller first, to go in and serve and connect with human beings is going to be much more important. And as Carson, you keep saying, it's use the AI to make you better at that. Sorry, Carson, go for it. Like I want to hear what you have to say.
No, Lee just made the mic drop comment. The great sellers are always going to be in demand, period.
Yeah, no, what Lee's saying is Forrester forecasted that 1 million B2B salespeople would lose their job through e-commerce by the year 2020. And they were wrong. I'm not worried.
Right.
It's just going to be different, right? It's just the roles are going to be different in what they're actually putting in place there.
Use the tools to rise to the top.
Yep. There we go.
And I know this isn't a movie reference, but especially for you Gen Xers out there, Milli Vanilli got caught.
I read all of these AI instances right now. Like if you go out on YouTube, you can literally listen to music that is sung by Michael Jackson covering some brand new song, or Frank Sinatra singing Thriller, or it blows my mind. I just saw in the news this week they're going to release a new Beatles record.
There's a new Beatles album with an AI-generated John Lennon. Yeah.
I mean, it blows my mind, the possibilities. It's crazy. And then here in a couple of weeks, I'm gonna go see the new Indiana Jones, and they've de-aged Harrison Ford to like my age, romping through the 1940s. I think in some ways it's very exciting, but we've also got to be really, really careful because of the implications of some of this stuff.
Well, we've already dealt with the whole fake news era, and now we've just used technology to empower faker news.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for all the comments. Tim, thank you. Prompt Base is great. I'm glad that was the right name. If you want to go check out prompts, there's a whole bunch of them out there on Prompt Base. Carson, Brandon, any final words before we wrap up here today? Any movie references, Brandon, that you've been holding back on?
I had a few pop in mind, but that's not my lane. I'm gonna stay in my lane.
All right.
But I am a little curious. Mariana posted earlier, and she just commented here and said that finance jobs will disappear before marketing ones. She also had a comment earlier. She said something about how AI has really helped people that were not English first speakers access to a lot more content in their own language. And I hadn't thought a ton about that, obviously, because I speak and read English, and that is enough in some ways. I speak Spanish and read Spanish as well. But I think for AI, it's going to even the playing field so quick in so many different areas that we need to stay. And my encouragement is for all of us, we got to stay up to date with it, because any competitive advantage we can get, we need right now.
Yeah. And it's a lot to keep up with right now.
Yeah.
So we'll
that's
keep
why the community, bring it all around on the modern seller community. That's what I love about the community is I don't have to stay on top of everything, because people are bringing all sorts of things into the community. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know about that. Like anyone listening, you didn't know about prompt base before. Or what was it? The other chatbase.co, right? Join the Modern Seller HQ community and come be a voice in there. You might think, oh, I don't have anything to share. That's totally not right. You have something to share and bring, and the community will appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, you could write an amazing post like I did, and then have it to say, make it better. So That's all you got to do.
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. Good stuff. I know we'll be having more conversations on this topic as we go along. And Carson, do you want to wrap us up?
With pleasure. Until next time, everyone, happy social selling.
Thanks, everyone.